Welcome back to another episode of the Exchange Podcast. This is your host, Tom Paul Tipton, along with JaVaughn Iversen, our co-host for the Exchange Podcast.
How's it going, guys?
And how's everybody's week been?
Mine's been going well with our nice old guest here. We got Kris Byrd. How's your week been?
Man, it's been fantastic.
That's good.
It's been a really blessed week.
That's good.
So, as he just mentioned, we do have another guest, and that was always the idea, right? So, what I find about these podcasts is everybody just likes the bro talk kind of thing, and that seems to be what goes over. And that really, it's where we get most of our traffic is when we have people on. But today is a little bit different. Not exactly sure. I meant to ask you this before we started recording. But I know you work, the guest we have on today is Kris Byrd, and him and his wife, Tara, I met them in 2016. And I believe I heard you say the other day that you felt a call from God to go into the mission field. Is that correct?
Yes. In 2015.
Okay. So roughly about a year. Had you done anything? I believe you had when I met you. You had went to Cumberland, Kentucky. Is that right?
It was Philippi, West Virginia.
Okay.
Grafton, West Virginia.
Okay, that's what I couldn't remember because when I lived over in Southwest Virginia, we used to. I lived like about an hour from I believe it was Crystal. No, wasn't her name. It was Loretta Lynn, her hometown, which is extremely poverty stricken. And it's over there towards Cumberland Gap area, and and that whole area is really, I mean, we hear about third world countries, and they've got third world living standards over there. But today we're not going to be talking about that so much. Kind of give us a little bit of, I don't know if you're a member of Conversion City Church in Conway, Arkansas, which is where we do the podcast and hosts the studios. Give us a little bit, I don't know if you've got a title that has been given to you. If so, tell us what that is. And kind of give us a rundown on what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's missions coordinator.
Okay.
I guess you say, or director. My wife and I, we've been doing this, like I said, since 2015 now. And all the way up to now, we're really stepping out. It's really growing, starting to take off. It's, taking some time with training and seeing our way through. So we're stepping out now and, starting to help out with Honduras, is really our main focus inside the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
Pastor Eric Downs is building a orphanage in Honduras.
Okay.
And
tell us a little bit about, because a lot of our listeners, we have listeners from all over, and a lot of them don't necessarily know that much about the Church of God or necessarily who Eric Downs is. Can you give us a little bit of the story behind him?
Well, Pastor Downs, here 7-8 years ago, he took a trip with another local pastor of the state down into Central America and made a stop in Honduras.
Okay.
And, they was visiting, different villages and tribes, so to say, throughout Honduras, in the jungle areas. And was looking, if I believe, to start churches and, build churches out in these very distant areas from cities and things like that. And anyway, not long before they was fixing to leave, he come across this little girl and was talking to her, and come to find out she had been raped 3 times the day before.
Wow.
And, we're just talking about a small child. I'm talking about under 12 years old from what I understand with it. And he says, we was fixing to leave and come back to United States, and he says, all I could do was just put my hand on that child and pray.
Yeah.
He says, and then I had to leave this child. He says, and that was absolutely one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And he says, and when I had to leave that child, he says, you know what? He says, I'm building an orphanage here in Honduras to help as many children as I possibly can to get out of these situations.
Right.
And I started to say, and he started with $53 in his ministry account when he started building this thing. And thankful for the state of Arkansas, the Church of God here in Arkansas. They really rallied behind him and started raising money. And we're going into, I believe it's our seventh year backing him with funding.
Can you give us the names? Because on this, what we're going to do on this particular podcast on YouTube, I know we'll do it on YouTube, probably do it on Facebook too, but we're going to give the links to where people can go to. And then also we'll give you the link through the church, Conversion City. But can you give us the names of those ministries that you're involved with?
That my wife and I are involved with?
Yes.
Missions is our main focus. That's where we do the majority of our work.
Okay, when I say, let me back that up, because when I say names,
The corporation.
the places that Eric Downs is specifically focused in on. I believe you said Honduras.
Yes, that is where he is at. That's where he is.
Okay.
He has been working for the past several years and is currently working to build.
So that's going to be yours and your wife's focus as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Honduras? Okay.
Yes.
Because, in our podcast kind of mix, and we've talked about this, we kind of mix a little bit of the political with, but from a biblical worldview. And, Jesus told us, he said, go into all the world and preach the gospel. And in the United States is a melting pot. And if you've been watching the news, we all saw that it was Thursday night at midnight, Title 42 just went away. And if you're not sure of what Title 42 was, it was an act that was put into place while Trump was still in office during COVID, and it pretty much shut the southern border down in a lot of ways. It didn't completely shut down, but it kept because of the pandemic. Well, that went away. And if you watch the news, what you saw was, as some people would explain it, as an invasion. It's thousands of people down there coming across the border. And I'm not necessarily looking at that so much as while that's not good. It's not good. It's going to have some very negative, devastating effects. But at the same time, I think the church has to look at that from a standpoint of not political as much as it's happening, right? So this is not something that we're going, okay, well, we'll vote the right guy in, and and this won't happen. It's happening.
Yes.
And so the church has a way, or this is going to be a great opportunity. Let me say that for the church, the local church, to also do world outreach right here in the United States. You can go to your next door neighbor in many cases, depending on where you live, and you can probably talk to someone from another culture who's not even saved. But with what you're doing, with what you and Tara are doing, I heard a little bit about, because I heard that story about the little girl that had been raped the night before by, I think, 3 or 4 men, and it's hard to fathom that here in the United States. I look at, I was talking to someone in a gas station the other day, and I was looking for some kind of protein bar or something, and I couldn't choose what I wanted. And the guy that I was standing next to, it just all of a sudden hit me, and I said, as bad as the United States is looked upon and some of the things that we are doing, I thank God that I'm from the United States, because I get to stand here for 10 minutes trying to make up my mind on what I want.
What candy bar you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some of these kids they're taking anything thrown at them.
Yeah.
And so I know that this ministry kind of addresses that. Can you give us a little bit on that?
Well, when this orphanage is opened, it's not only just going to get them out of, off the streets from where, the rape and drug trafficking, using children and things like that. Not only is that taken out of their life, but, they get 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
And, statistics are showing, currently the latest that we can find through the Honduran government's websites and stuff is, children 5 and under, it's like 16.8% mortality rate
Wow.
due to malnutrition. So not only are they just getting out of these, these horrifying experiences, where they don't have to deal with those things, but I mean, they're being fed.
Right.
Their bellies are full. Well, when they lay down at night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and have a good safe place to be.
And so
And-
go ahead.
No,
This orphanage, he's building that in Honduras. What was the because I know you spoke Sunday about this. What was the total on that they were looking to raise for that? Did they give one? Did you give one?
yeah, from the best that we that he said, it's looking to be approximately 1 year to finishing to be able to open, and I think the total that he said was like 54,000
Okay.
is what was remaining in order to have everything installed. That's bathrooms and showers and get the electricity and all that on. Get the transformers put up for the power.
How many children do you think will be housed in that one orphanage? Because I'm sure they don't want to stop at one.
Yeah, it's going to be 75 to 100.
75 to 100. That's
Yeah.
and some people may sit out there and go, well, it's 75 to 100. But that's a lot of that's 75 to 100 kids that we can make a difference in their lives.
Yeah.
Well, Pastor Downs, the lady that, and I don't know her direct title within the Honduran government, but, she told him, it says, if you open today, I got 100 kids sitting and waiting on you.
Wow. I can't imagine. I've been down to Old Mexico. It's been several years ago, and I can remember, and this wasn't a mission thing, but I remember walking down the street and I saw a police officer. He goes into a building, and I'm assuming he was going after somebody who was involved in drugs. And he's got a rifle in his hand. He walks into the building. I didn't see this, but I saw all this and heard all the commotion, so I didn't witness this part myself. But, I mean, he just pretty much shoots the guy and then walks right back out. I think a lot of times, unless we go to these places, and I think when I saw that and I would see some of these kids that I knew were malnourished, it does something to you to make you realize, we're still extremely blessed in the United States.
Oh, most definitely.
And and so I don't begrudge anyone wanting to come here to better themselves, to better their lot, to better their life. But I would say this, that one of the reasons why it is necessary that you come through the legal way is because even though the United States is a great country, it's not full of altogether great people. And some of these people will come across this border and they're going to be mistreated. Mm-hmm. And here's the problem. They're here illegally. So who do they go to? They can't. So if they get hired by somebody who wants to overwork them, they can't say anything. If they get sold into human trafficking like you're talking about, they can't say anything because their fear is being deported.
Yes.
Back to these conditions. And I say that because one of the things that Eric Downs and you and Tara are trying to do is trying to bring some hope to that and trying to change some of that for some people. And it's going to take more than prayer is going to be key and vital, but it's going to take more than prayer. It's going to take people with resources. And I know we've got plenty of listeners on here, and I would say, if you're looking for something to give to, now nobody give your tithe. Your tithe goes straight to your church. If you're not a Christian, don't worry about what I said there. But if you are a Christian going to a church, your tithe belongs to your church. But if you're looking for something above that and extra to actually go somewhere, all of the money goes to that, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
It goes to no church. It goes to no pastor. It goes to no other organization. 100% goes to that mission itself for, whatever's needed within that mission.
Now, something that was brought up Sunday, how many doors does that place is it needing?
36.
And all those doors are going to have to be mahogany wood.
Yes.
Now, when I say that, I can almost hear some of our audience gasping.
Rich mahogany.
Rich mahogany.
Yeah.
But break that down so that they understand the difference between there and here.
Yeah, well, I've not priced mahogany doors here in the U.S. It's
Let me tell you, I can't even look at them.
Yeah, it's I can't afford to look at them. It's they're thousands of dollars here. To put within your home. But in Honduras, it's I believe I said this last Sunday. As current as I have gotten this is a couple weeks ago. The Honduran dollar, that's hard for me to pronounce on it, so we'll just go with Honduran dollar. That's like 4 U.S. cents.
Wow.
And these doors, mahogany, I know people's like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can sponsor one of these doors.
Right.
But, they're $240. That's what it's going to cost for them to be hand built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not coming off of like a production line like we have here in the States.
Right. You're not even putting an axe to a tree here in the United States for $240 on mahogany.
No. And it's $240.
Mm-hmm.
It's 36 doors that comes out to $8,460.
Now, I would ask this question for people that would go, well, why mahogany? Pest, termites especially.
Yeah. Termites will not get into mahogany and destroy it the way they would like here in the States, with pine or oak or anything like that.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a strange thing.
It is strange. I wonder, it kind of makes you wonder what repels them. Of course, I mean, that's a different question for another time. But what repels them out? Because I was thinking that the other day when we were talking about it. What repels them out of mahogany?
It goes straight to their thighs.
What's that?
It goes straight to their thighs.
Yeah, I start to say your guess is as good as mine on that one. But I mean, it's just got a natural repellent. And but anyway, that's what these doors have to be built out of. That's the reason when they built this orphanage down there, it was built out of concrete block. And I mentioned this Sunday as well. Lowe's and Home Depot did not deliver these.
Right.
These are made by.
Can you give us a breakdown how those are made?
It entirely by hand. It's they get to a water source, they mix this concrete by hand, they pour it into forms by hand.
Same in Christmas.
It's like the Egyptians building the pyramids.
Yeah.
Or the Jews, rather.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of looking at more of an ancient way of doing this, and this is the way this entire orphanage was built. Seriously by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the mortars and blocks that was made out of this. Of course, you have to buy your mortar somewhere.
Yeah.
But it the concrete blocks were all formed by hand and laid.
Yeah.
As they cured. And, I've said this out here before, I was a brick, block, and stonemason for many, many years. And, when we went to build a new home, here in Arkansas, we were so thankful when we pulled up and grabbed a hold of a block, and it was one of our what we call lightweight blocks.
And they were probably delivered on pallets, I bet.
Yes, sir.
Not there.
Yeah, it's not only was they delivered on pallets, we put flags in the ground where we didn't have to carry them so far. I guess you say that's lazy or smart. I don't know which one you call that.
I think it's good because, a lot of times we forget just how blessed we are. And we're not blessed just because. We're blessed to be a blessing. Yeah. And that's what I want to really that's really what I want to drive home today is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I am thankful. I can pick up my iPhone and you know, I can see almost anything in the world. I mean, you can go to the old Google, pull up a map, and you could probably zoom down right where this place is. I'm not sure. I would think probably maybe for safety or for security, perhaps not, because one of the things I wanted to ask about too, something you brought up, and if the cartel finds out that you guys are doing this, it's not prison, it's instant death, correct?
Well, as far as the orphanage being built, you know, not so much. I'm sure there's some of the cartels down there that are highly against this, because when kids are pulled off the street, put in these orphanages, there goes some of their trafficking. Yeah, their employees.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and when I say kids, I'm not talking. I'm sure 17 and 18 is involved, but I'm not talking about right on the verge of adulthood. You know, I'm talking about 8, 9, 10-year-old kids.
Wow.
And you know what the sad part about it is, these kids they're not going to say, "Hey, let me traffic your drugs for you." They're forced to do it.
Right.
And you know, I said this out here Sunday also. You know, this orphanage is going to get these kids out of these situations, as many as possible. But, you know, it would also save them kids from waking up the next morning and say, well, what is somebody going to do to me today that is going to scar me for life? And how many drugs am I going to have to run? And I have to traffic these drugs or they'll kill me.
Right.
You know, and that's sad to think for anybody, even an adult.
Yeah.
More or less a child that, you know, that can be overcome.
Well,
You
that's
know,
it.
easy.
They have no defense.
Yeah. And, you know, and with all this right on the edge of being an actual reality that, you know, to home these children, it, you know, that's where I'm thankful for the church, is because the church is stepping in and, you know, fighting against this, you know, and trying to remove these kids out of having to live these lifestyles.
Yeah.
And
I looked it up. It's called a Honduran Lempira.
The money?
Yeah, the money. And for every dollar, it's 24 of those, 24.68.
Okay.
So when you're saying, you know, we're blessed to be a blessing, and you're talking about how much, you know, they need for money, you know, just for those who are listening, if you were to give $5, and if I just punch it in right now, you're giving the equivalent of 123.4 of their currency, which goes a long way for them where they're at. So we're not. It's one of those things where people will say, "Oh, well, they're just asking for all my money." No,
$5.
$5.
$5 to change the world.
And it's not going to any of us three privileged guys in America. It's going to these kids.
Yeah.
Something that I was listening to on the way over here was Hello Dolly. It's a Broadway show. Love that show.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great. There's a great message in there where this rich guy and Dolly are, you know, they want to get married, and they both have the same mindset. What's it boils down to this: what's with having all this money?
Yeah.
It piles up like manure.
Yep.
And unless you take that manure and spread it around, it's just going to be a pile of manure that smells bad eventually.
Yeah.
And so think of it that way. When you know you can't physically be in Honduras, some of us can, you know, and I think we'll talk about that in a minute. I think you said you're taking a trip. But when not everybody could just go, you know, your money can go a long way, and God takes that blessing and makes it last where he sees fit.
Right.
So to segue into that, you know, you taking a trip, when you go, what is it that they plan on having you do?
Well, this trip I'll be taking, a lot of the work's kind of ceased because they're to the point to where they don't have to have as many skilled hands or skilled labor. You know, it's a lot of smaller things now. So a lot
Can
of
you
the
get
work.
the mic kind of pointed? You could turn it if you need to.
You know, a lot of the you know, the physical side of things, of the block laying and putting a roof on and things like that. You know, it's finished.
Good.
You know, the roof is on this orphanage, and trying to get doors and windows and electricity and things like that put in. So really what I'm going for this time is to learn kind of the business side of to see how everything operates.
Okay.
Is what I'm doing now. Hey, if I can get my hands dirty down there,
I know you will.
It's that's my deal. I love to help people. I don't like having to work my daily job, but I love working outside my daily job.
It's no coincidence that God asked you, because when I first got here, I got here in 2019, 2018 maybe, but the first thing I met about you and your wife was you guys were not shy to just get to work, whether some of these panels on the roof were down or something, the lawn needed to be mowed or something. You were always right there to help, and when somebody needed we had stairs at our church that we needed to go build for a church family friend. So we all packed up, and you had all your tools ready to go, ready to get out there and take care of business. My wife and I moved in. So there is no coincidence with God.
Yeah.
God's prepared you in a way where you have a servant's heart, that you're willing to go meet strangers across the planet and just take care of this job, which is very commendable, I would say.
Well, and I would say, you mentioned about building the stairs. One of the things about the church, Conversion City Church, probably one of our strongest suits is the fact that, and I'll say this because the pastors are my sister and brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is the pastor, but both of them are pastors, right? And he'll reach out and help anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's kind of a foundation that he has laid here at the church, teaching a lot of people is, hey, bless someone.
Yes.
Not for the fact that you're looking for something in return, but that is the principle of sowing and reaping.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to sound like a televangelist here, but at the end of the day, it is still scriptural. And, I'm not going to tell everybody to go to your Bible, but I'm going to tell everybody there is the law of sowing and reaping. And this orphanage that you're working on, just like this podcast, the scripture tells us that one of these days this earth is going to burn.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we want to talk global warming. It's going to happen one day. Not the way they think, but it's going to happen. And we're also told that our works will be tried in fire.
Yep.
And while that orphanage one day will be burned up, it's the work that's going to be done through that orphanage.
Yes.
That is going to last. That will be tried by fire, and the pure works of that will come forth as gold. If someone wanted to go on this, can you kind of give us a breakdown on the cost of what that would look like?
Well, the best, airfare, when I started pricing tickets here, within the last three or 4 weeks, because this trip, when I talked with Pastor Downs at a mission rally in Benton, Arkansas, at Life Spring Church, it's going to be the end of summer, first of fall, kind of when their when the quarterly time changes,
Mm-hmm.
is next time he's going down. And I asked him if it was still feasible, because in 2020 I was actually supposed to go with him that June.
COVID kind of shut everything down.
Yeah, COVID, it
Was that
locked
a thing?
everything up. And I was like, this is disappointing, because, man, I was so excited. And, that I was going to have the opportunity to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I can't believe that. That's crazy. 2020 was 3 years ago.
Yeah. And
Well, and a lot of these missions just recently reopened.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
it's weird.
yes. And, this time around, it's like I was telling my wife here the other day. I said, I went with whatever they went with on this COVID. If they didn't want you to leave the country, I didn't leave the country. Which, just honestly, I've never stepped foot outside of our country. I've been right there on the Canadian border, but of course they're pretty. They're
Canada
not
doesn't-
friendly.
Canada doesn't count. Canada doesn't count.
Canada doesn't count.
So they
Okay.
think they're a
They're done.
different country. They're just us diet.
You've been to the Boot Hill of Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been outside of the country.
Oh.
No, I can say that. That's where I was born. I can say that. But
Well, if you've ever been to California, you might as well have been out of the country. Okay, I can say that because that's where I was born.
Yeah. Well, I can't say either one. I was born about 20 miles down the road from Conway, a little
There you
town
go.
called Marlton,
There you go.
and been there my whole life pretty much.
give us a tell us kind of how you mentioned this on Sunday, but I'd like for our audience to hear how that you knew God was leading you into this.
Oh, yeah, that was, I scratched my head on this right here for actually a couple of days. I did not mention that. I just kind of give a summary of it. My wife and I, we woke up one morning. And now my wife, she's been working with child sponsorship through World Vision, and she works many of the Christian Singers concerts and things, getting children adopted, for a month of giving, to help provide for them in these other countries. And we actually adopted two out of the Congo, and we sponsored them for several years, and they've kind of grown and moved out of that now. And she had been working in that for several months at this time. But I woke up one morning and I was like, man, something's different this morning. And I actually let it set for a day or two. And we got up one morning. I looked at my wife. I said, there's something we're supposed to do. And she just looked at me and started smiling. She says, what is it? What do you think it is? So I knew the confirmation was fixing to come here.
Yep.
And God had already spoken to her, and I'm sure he spoke to her because she listens a little better than I do sometimes, So
I know how that feels.
it's,
I think that happens a lot of times.
yeah, so anyway, I said, I believe that we're fixing to go into the mission field.
Wow.
And she says, that's confirmation. And I was like, hey, finally, I'm right about something here. And so anyway, we started kind of looking into different trips and this and that. We know we was not able to leave the country at that time for financial, means and reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're 100%, committed to, we want to be the number one sowers into what we're doing. And, so we got to looking at different trips here within the U.S., and we run across World Vision, which is an absolutely great organization to do local missions here in the U.S., meaning, it's what I mean by local. So anyway, we got to looking into that. Well, a lady that we actually went to church with, she come in and she looked at us. Now, we hadn't mentioned anything to anybody, not even your brother was actually our pastor at that time. Pastor Greg Tipton, and anyway, we hadn't even mentioned anything to him. And a lady that went to church with us, she came and looked at it. She said, I had a dream last night that y'all was going into missions, and y'all need to be prepared because you're fixing to be on the fast track.
Wow.
And that kind of blowed me away.
Yeah.
Because we've not said nothing. This is just
Nothing scary about that at all.
Yeah, this has just been between my wife and I at this time. And me and my wife, we both broke and teared up.
Yeah.
Because that was confirmation. This is what we're doing to both, for both of us.
Yeah.
And within 4 months later, we actually launched our own little missions organization. We named it Foundation Ministry.
Yeah.
And because we wanted to build everything solid, everything we've done, we wanted to build solid from,
Sure.
from the base.
Yeah.
And, we actually got tremendous backing on that with the church and just people that knew and people that heard. Then West Virginia, it popped up, and I'm like, I've been through West Virginia when I was a kid driving through them mountains in the Appalachians, and I'm like, I'm from Arkansas, I've been, just old country kid.
Yeah.
And, I've seen some pretty bad
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
Living out in the rural parts of Arkansas. And I said, but this is bad.
Appalachia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we actually booked this missions trip. We solely paid for it.
Wow.
And I mean, people within the church help fund it
Right.
because it was going to be like $1,000 to go up there. I mean, we had to buy the materials. We had to pay.
What did you do there?
We when we first got there, we met with the family, of course, that we was helping, and I won't mention their names for privacy reasons, but they were the most humble, most giving, and lovable people, and they probably had less than anybody that I personally know in my personal life. You know, we got there. We put them in a new driveway because it was just like a mudslide. You know, coming their driveway. We put gravel in, put them in a new driveway. We put drainage from around their home because all the rainwater was running underneath their mobile home.
Shucks.
You know, and just standing.
Yeah, it's amazing. You get up into those areas and you realize, hey, this is the United States, but it doesn't look like the rest of the United States.
You know, but we went on. We put in brand new windows, brand new doors, all insulated to help hold heat and help hold cool. You know, they come to me because we had to go report each evening there where we was at on the projects. And they wanted me, they told me, says, hey, their front deck, let's just shore that up. Let's just sturdy it up and where they can use it. And anyway, I got to looking at it that next day, and I'm like, there is no way that I'm just going to patch this.
Right.
You know, because the lady in the home, you know, she had a blood disorder. And, you know, she just started bleeding for no reason. And, you know, was always in and out, scared to go outside because if she fell,
she could bleed to death.
And cut herself, you know, she could bleed to death. And she was scared to death to go out on that porch. The only time she would go outside was when she had a doctor's appointment.
Wow.
And so the money that was raised, you know, prior to going to West Virginia, we took that money and we actually had a rental car. And it was quite funny when my wife, when she pulled back up, man, she had lattice work strapped to the top of this rental car. You know, had boards sticking out windows and boards sticking out trunks.
Yeah.
And it was quite comical. But those extra funds that come about, because there was more given in to what we actually needed.
Yeah.
So we took those funds and we built them a brand new deck onto the front of their mobile home. And
that's huge.
You know,
it is.
The greatest thing about that was, you know, and I almost called her name, but when the lady of the home, when she stepped out on that deck, the big smile come across her face and tears come to her eyes, it was like giving her all the freedom in the world.
Yeah, because she got to be out. You know, like you said, I mean, she hadn't been outside in no telling how long. I mean, she was a prisoner in her own home.
Yes. And
Shucks. I mean, that's just one of the joys of giving and blessing someone.
Yeah.
It's not I've seen a lot of people come up with reasons like, oh, well, you're a narcissist. You just want a pat on the back. But what you did was what many would call a thankless job, in terms of you did it, you got it done. You didn't need them to thank you. You didn't need them to do anything like that. You knew that you were just trusting the Lord.
Yeah.
The reward for us believers is when the Lord calls you and you say yes. Your reward is that you said yes.
Yeah.
And that you're working for the Lord.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You know, that I absolutely love that time. I've lost a gentleman's number due to my breaking cell phones and dropping them and busting them and losing them in the highway, you know, just different things. But I've lost his number. You know, we actually stayed in contact for, you know, I think about 3 years after us leaving.
Yeah.
We knew that family for 4 days. You know, we did all of this work in 4 days, and you know, we actually added on set of steps on the back of their mobile home, you know, for escape route, just in case something were to happen up in the front part and they couldn't escape out the front door safely. You know, and but one of the greatest things that come out of that right there, I did not know that's where you know, where they take like the yeast rolls, the hot rolls, dinner rolls,
yeah.
and put pepperoni and cheese inside of them.
Oh, really?
Like the real Hot Pockets.
Yeah,
That's where they do that.
yeah, that's where it originated at, and you know, that was a pretty cool history lesson for me, because that's what they would do for the coal miners.
Yep.
And that, you know, up in West Virginia, it was to make them because they could take them into the coal mine and them not spoil.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So then it just kind of became a thing.
And yeah, you know, and that gentleman, you know, of that family, he made them things from scratch.
Wow.
And, you know, probably like a better term, I hurt myself, you know, with, you know, eating them things.
Was it almost heaven?
Almost. Not quite.
Kind of manna. In the
Did you get to see those old country roads?
Yeah.
Did they take you home?
It's
Little John Denver here.
There you go.
but Brother Thomas, you actually asked a question a while ago about going down there. That's where you'd probably reach out to the Church of God. Going down there, Honduras, reaching out to the Church of God and them getting in contact with Pastor Downs. I don't know exactly how many he takes with him at a time, or even if he's allowing.
Have you got a
groups
contact
for Pastor Downs?
Yeah.
All I got is email, and honestly, I do not have that on me.
Okay.
Currently.
What we'll try to do is put that in a link.
I do have. It is the Church of God World Missions website. Is the website. I'll put the project numbers and everything in our description.
Okay.
And whenever you give me that email or any contact information for Pastor Downs, I can always go back and put it back into the episode, and we'll make sure this goes on all of our platforms.
Yeah.
Because I think that and he's just signaling to me that we got about 5 minutes here, but I think that it's good for people, if they get an opportunity to do that, to go and do that. Because like I said, I got to go down to Old Mexico a few years back, and I went down actually. I went down for vacation, but I'm the kind of person that I probably took my life into my hands a little bit, because a lot of times you see the tourist part that America, our money dumps into.
Yeah.
And so if you just kind of go down there for the vacation part, that's all you see. But I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to go somewhere, I want to go there, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, hey, I grabbed a taxi and I drove into one of the towns that was not recommended.
It's very brave of you, Gringo.
But I wanted to see, hey, because number one, you don't just get to go to Old Mexico all the time. I mean, and I wanted to see the country. I wanted to experience the country, and what I saw there was number one, something that made me very grateful that I was born in the United States. But number two, it made me understand, and most importantly to me, it made me understand any blessings that I have, I'm just a conduit. It's not supposed to stop with me.
Yeah.
And if you get an opportunity to go and experience that, I would always suggest go.
Yep.
And I'm going, one of the things I've kind of been praying about, and I don't know exactly, not sure exactly how much, but one of the goals that I have for the Exchange podcast, I can't do this now, but but I believe it will come, is that on things like this, things that are helpful to people and reach out to people, is that when people give, we are able to match what they're doing from this podcast.
Be 100% the goal.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not to get rich. It's not to get famous, because I'm reminded of what Mike Tyson said. The only reason people want money is because they've never had it.
Yeah.
And so it's not about money with me, but I do understand money is what makes the wheels turn.
Yes.
Yeah. And for propriety reasons, I can't just say I'm going to do this, because I've specifically put myself in place of accountability with this podcast, with the money that we do have, that I don't just go and write a check. Okay. So I have to go through certain channels, but I have to look at it and see what we got. And I know this podcast, because like you said, I mean, five American dollars is equivalent to almost $130.
Right.
So going to look and see what can come from this podcast, and I know I can do it. I know I can do that, but I just, it's like I said, there's channels I got to go through. But on our way out of here, because like I said, he said we got about 5 minutes. We can go over a little bit. On our way out of here, tell the people who they can donate to, because I believe we've probably got people who would like to do that. Tell them who they can donate to, who they can give to, and what it's going for.
Okay. First, I want to put out to all the people that's listening that we set a $10,000 goal is what we're currently trying to reach.
Okay.
We think that's very feasible. As of earlier this week, I think we were somewhere around half of that
Okay.
with total givings. We're currently, yearly giving certain amount of monies a month.
Yeah.
So $10,000 is our goal there. But, to give for people that's listening in other states, which has been amazing. I know of about 9 states here that the givings come out of that I'm aware of. But people in other states that's listening, and maybe even, I think you said you had some listeners in Canada.
We've got some in Honduras.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's even better.
Yeah.
And you can go to Convergent City Websites Church and go down to giving,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
and click on giving, and that will bring you to Tithely. And when you get on Tithely, I believe it's a little drop tab that you can hit, and you go down to World Missions, and you can give there. We're also supporting, as a nation, the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia, and we really didn't touch on that any, I don't believe. But
Well, it'll be another episode.
yeah, that could.
Yeah.
It's some of the same circumstances, but some different as well.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you can go to that World Missions, and you can give there. Just put this out. Anybody that gives, it is a tax break at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If you want to give.
And the
plenty.
office will. You can go through the office and get the form for that write-off.
Yeah. And to also say, Brother JaVaughn here, he said he put in that link here later on that he put the project number on there. I think you can just type in Honduras, and it will still 100% will go to Honduras.
Yeah. Okay. And that's, like I said, I mean, that is what I would encourage anybody. $5.
$5.
Who's going to miss $5? $5 a month. Could you imagine?
That's a coffee.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't have to even give a month. You can give one time.
Yep.
Well,
but give enough. And I'm not saying give $5. I'm trying to break this down to understand what $5 is.
yeah.
Understand the difference that it makes. When we're sitting here going, well, man, $5 doesn't. In 1997, when I graduated high school, I could go and get Coke, candy bar, and pretty much fill up my tank on $5.
Yeah.
In 1997.
All right, now you're bragging.
Yeah. And I look at that and I go, I even myself, I went, man, $5 won't get me anything. $5 with what you're doing will go much further
Yeah.
than it's ever went in this country, and not to mention it's going to be an eternal thing. But there are people who can easily, listening to us, I'm sure, could easily write $1,000 check off the bat.
Oh, yes.
And I
yes.
would challenge you, if you got $1,000 burning in your pocket, if you don't, and you want to do something because you just want to take a step of faith and trust God, and you're going, you know what? Maybe you feel like God's wanting you to do that. Again, I don't want to sound like a televangelist here, but if you feel like God is wanting you to do that, go ahead, write the check. God will make certain you don't miss it. God will make certain that you're not going to be left desolate. Any amount that you can give would be appreciated, but sometimes we have to give till it hurts.
Yeah.
And what is skipping a cup of coffee when you realize what it's going to do for one of these kids that the night before was abused by not just one person, but by 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, brother, I've actually broke it down. I've broken many different scenarios of what we can give and sacrifice. Minimal. I've even broke it down. I know a lot of people love Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
1 cup of coffee a week is all you have to sacrifice.
Yeah,
that's $5.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all good. I think the crazy part is that you don't get too many exchanges like this.
No.
And you don't talk about these things because not many people want to get down to the brass tacks. Is that eternity, the only thing you need to worry about with eternity is that were you doing what the Lord asked you to do?
Yeah.
And Kris, at this point, I can honestly say, when you cast your crown down at his feet, you'll have a jewel there, a couple of jewels for what you've been doing. And a lot of us we'll be right there with you because we do want to give. And the Exchange Podcast supports this type of giving, supports this type of mission work. I come from a family of missionaries myself, and I know the benefits of all this. And as the Exchange Podcast co-host, I think it's safe to say we will be praying. We will be doing our due diligence with the channels we need to go through, but we plan to help out as much as we can.
Yeah.
Can I add one last
Go
thing
ahead.
right here?
Absolutely.
If any of the listeners, they do want to write a check and they did not want to use Tithely, the address to our church is good
Oh,
to
yeah,
get.
also.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that is 516 3rd Avenue, Conway, Arkansas, 72032.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And every penny that you give goes to this project, to this mission.
100%.
There's not one penny that goes to me, JaVaughn.
We'll show
or-
you the receipts.
Yeah. So your money will be well spent. And as he said, this has been a great exchange, and just be praying about that. And we will get you back on to talk about the Golden Triangle.
Okay. Well, I look forward to it. Hey, and I'll thank y'all for the opportunity to get to come and, get this out even further.
Yep.
So.
We love you guys. You guys have a great weekend, and happy Mother's Day.